My name is Jamin Garker. I'm your first friend in Alaska, and I am an associate real estate broker in South Central Alaska, and I am here to give you the market update for what's going on in the Mat-Su Valley. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Mat-Su Valley is one of the largest, if not the largest, real estate markets in the entire state, and so for that reason, we want to keep a close eye on it. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I did find out recently about 3/4 of y'all who watch this show are not actually subscribed, so please go ahead and do that. That does help out quite a bit. Now, let's go ahead and jump into today's market update, looking first at the single family category. Now, the first thing that I want to know is how many properties we have on the market. So we see that this time last year, there were about 332 single-family properties that were available on the market. And this year, there's about 425. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this is something that I've said multiple times before, in the Mat-Su Valley, we have a variable, and that is the number of new construction homes we have coming onto the market. So we don't know exactly how many of these new construction homes are actually brick and mortar, actually existing, ready for you to move in, because a lot of these properties, they're just a floor plan, really, not like a lot, and they're not something you can move into anytime soon. So just because we say 425, that does not necessarily mean we have 425 available properties for everyone, because for a lot of people, new construction, it's a great thing to have, and a lot of people are just not in a position where the new construction is a viable option. So, this is something I've been looking at. Of the 425 properties on the market, 92 of them are new construction. So that is, we'll say about 20% of all the properties that's out there. How many of those 92 are actually existing or spec homes, and how many of them are just pictures from previous listings? I could not say definitively, but always kind of look at the number of properties available in the MLS for the Mat-Su Valley with some skepticism. Now, next thing we see is that this time last year, in 2023, we sold actually about 113 properties. This year, for the month of December, 116. And really, that's pretty representative for what we've seen for the entire year for 2024. Because the good thing about January is we get all the data from the previous year all in one consolidated spot. So we see that for the year 2023, there were 1,636 properties that sold. For the year 2024, 1,632. So 4 properties less overall. So they're really not a big move one way or the other. We're still just kind of staying stable to where we were the year before. Now, looking historically, prior to COVID, right around like 1800, up to about 1900 was kind of the average. So the fact that we're at 1600, we're still not recovered, but we're way further along than other markets like Eagle River or Anchorage for that matter. Now, also looking around the COVID years, we do see that the high water mark was about approximately 2,400 single family homes that sold for the entire year. So don't think we're going to go back to that anytime soon, but that's just to give you an idea just how crazy it got during the COVID times. The next thing we see is that the average sold price went from about $398,000 this time last year to date, to about $413,000, which means we've seen about a 3.8% increase for the average sold price in the Mat-Su Valley. Now, that's actually pretty welcome. Like, I don't want to see these big rushes on the market where the market just shoots up suddenly. Because if it does that for too long, it does start creating some element of volatility. And if you have so much money tied up in real estate, you don't really like to see volatility. Well, at least I don't like to see volatility. I like to see steady as we go, about 4.5% increase year over year. I'm pretty happy with that. In previous years in the Mat-Su Valley, just to give you an example, the year before was about a 4% increase. Year before that was about a 10% increase. Year before that was about a 15.6% increase. Year before that, 10% increase. And the year before that, about 1.5%. So this just kind of gives you an idea like how how much things have shot up. Looking at 2020, the average sold price, you know what? We're going to look at 2019 actually. So looking at 2019, we see the average sold price was about $274,000, and now we're sitting at about $413,000. So you see just by how much it's shot up in that small bit of time. And there are a lot of variables that go along with that that's contributed to it. But if you have a lot of locals here in the area just losing their mind over, oh, the prices are so high, there's no way anyone can get those prices, I'm kind of sympathetic, because they're looking and their expectations were set prior to COVID. And they're not seeing these numbers that are actually driving it, nor taking into consideration the influx of people that have moved out from Anchorage, nor considering the fact that a lot of the homes that are coming on are new construction, and just by nature of them being new construction, they're going to be more expensive. So there's a lot of variables here, but the big thing is slow and steady is kind of the increase that we're seeing right now. All right, let's go and switch gears real quick and take a look at what's going on in raw land. So looking at raw land, we see that this time last year there were about 640 pieces of raw land available. Now it's about 530. So we're seeing a bit of it, well, not a bit. We are seeing a dip in the available inventory for raw land. That can be any number of things, but we do see historically, we would expect about 1,000, maybe 1,100 pieces of raw land for the time of year looking at December. So, that's obviously drastically lower. And I think one of the reasons for this might just be because we've been developing so much in the previous years. I think the development's starting to cool down a little bit. And so there's not as much demand as there was before. And all the things that were available have been snatched up. Possibly. That is one theory. Next thing we see as far as raw land goes, that this time last year for the month of December, we see that 42 pieces of raw land sold, and this year it's 40. Now, not a whole lot of difference there. Let's see what the aggregate for the entire year is. So we see that in 2023, we see that the number of properties, pieces of raw land it actually sold was about 677, and this year it's about 624. So even though we are seeing pretty steep drop in the inventory available, we still do see that, we're close. We're not dropping proportionally to the number of inventory available. We're not dropping proportionally for the number of properties that are actually selling. So the demand still remains pretty high, but it still is going down, because historically, we would see about 650. Well, actually, I think we're actually about normal average even prior to COVID. Because prior to COVID, we'd see probably about 530 up to about 660. So about 620 for the entire year. That's kind of par. All right, now looking at the average sold price, we see the average went from about 82,000 this time last year to this year, entire year to date, of being approximately 85,000, which means we've seen roughly a 3% increase for the average sold price. Now, keep in mind, obviously, these are averages, and when we're dealing with raw land, just having like one big mega piece of property that's like hundreds of acres is sold for a couple million can really throw the numbers off, but this does give you kind of an idea for what the average sold price is for raw land. And also keep in mind, this doesn't indicate how much people paid per acre. This is just per listing sold on the MLS. It was approximately 85,000. So take that any way you want to. All right, let's go ahead and take a break real quick. Just wanted to make sure you guys were aware that we have the Alaskan Journey podcast, where I interview people who recently moved up here to Alaska and really kind of dive deep and figure out like what their experience has been, what they like about the state, what they don't like about the state. So if you are considering moving to Alaska, you can make really informed decisions based on hearing the perspective of people who have recently moved up here. And we have this in video form right here on the podcast, where you can kind of see us in studio talking. And we also have the audio only version, which you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you want to look at podcasts. A link for the audio version of that podcast is going to be in the description section down below. You can also check this channel if you want to see what the video version looks like. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update, looking at the multifamily market. Now, looking at the multifamily market, we see that this time last year, there were 29 properties available for the year 2023 in December. For the year 2024, we see that there were 37. So slight increase for the available inventory. Historically, though, it's still a bit of a dip because normally we'd expect to see anywhere from about 50 to about, nearly 70. So the fact that we're just sitting at 37 indicates how low the inventory is right now for multifamily properties in the Mat-Su Valley. Now, looking at the number of properties that have actually sold, we see that for the month of December, there were 4 that sold. And then for this past December, like just last month, it was 11. So you do see the bit of an uptick there. Looking at the total numbers for the entire year, we see that in 2023, it was 88, and for 2024, 89. So not a whole lot of shifting one way or the other there. We do see the number of properties that sell for multifamily, usually in the realm of about 90 to about 130 prior to COVID. So we are seeing ourselves creeping back up to that normal, which is good. Obviously, the inventory is, still lagging behind, but we are starting to see kind of a return to the same number of properties being bought and sold in the Mat-Su Valley. So that's a good sign. Finally, we see the average sold price for multifamily that went from about $580,000 for the year 2023 to about $602,000 this year, which means the average sold price has gone up by approximately 3.7%. So this is about what I would expect to see because we have more and more population moving to the Mat-Su Valley, kind of trying to get away from Anchorage because there's more freedom, more lifestyle opportunities out here for a lot of people. They want to move to Alaska, and living in somewhere like Anchorage just really isn't fulfilling the desire they have to live up here. The whole reason they came up here in the first place. So you do see a lot of people move to Anchorage initially and then make the move out to the Mat-Su Valley. And with that being the case, I do expect to continue seeing these prices go up because as more people move to an area, those rents are going to naturally start increasing. Now we're going to see more multifamily properties become available, which will hopefully alleviate some of those pressures on tenants. But for the time being, I'm really expecting to see these prices just go up at kind of a steady rate. Now, summarizing for everyone, big takeaway for me is number one, we want to really make sure that we have kind of in our minds locked in what a win is for you. What I mean by that is a lot of people are on the fence and deciding if they want to purchase or not based on the interest rates. I wouldn't really look at it this way because if you wait until interest rates drop, then you're just going to be joining the herd when a lot of other people decide to jump in as well. And once that happens, you're going to find out the hard way that, hey, you're going to have to compete, and that means you're going to have to come in over asking price, and you're going to have to offer a bunch of stuff that just kind of negates the benefit from having the lower interest rate. Meanwhile, if you purchase something now that's you can afford and works with your budget, it's not going to put you in any kind of a bind, like the house is a blessing and not a curse for you. Given that, it's something that actually works for you, you purchase now and then the interest rates come down low enough to where it makes sense to refinance that thing, and then just sit back and watch everyone else lose their mind in the ensuing chaos. And ask anyone that bought a house in 2020 or 2021, and they will tell you that if you can avoid that, try to avoid that. Meanwhile, if interest rates do go up, you win again because you get to sit back and enjoy the lower interest rates on your house. So that's the advice I would give for buyers. Now for sellers, it's not the same market we had back in 2020, 2021. But we can still sell your house pretty quickly. This is more or less a seller's market, bordering on a balanced market, but more of a seller's market. We do have to make sure that we're really on top of the marketing and making sure your house puts the best foot forward, and making sure that obviously we're leveraging all the skill and knowledge in the market to get the top dollar for your house. If that's something you're interested in, reach out to me and let's talk a little bit. For the investors out there, really the same thing as always. Just make sure the numbers actually do balance out on any deals that you're trying to make out there. And definitely do make sure that you're socking away money for the inevitable time when things do break down at your property. I have a fourplex right now where we've got a pretty extensive project that came up. I'm not too worried about it though, because I actually did, have a substantial account set aside from the rental income to cover the inevitable projects like this that are going to come up. Had I not done that, I could be in big trouble. And had I fallen into the temptation of, oh, I've got rental income, oh, okay, I'm going to plan that trip to Hawaii using this money now, and like, no, like that's not what that rental income is for. It is to get put into a bank account to cover these kind of things when they come up. And anything beyond that, sure, knock yourself out, but that's just stress that I would prefer not to have. So just my 2 cents. Hope all this has been useful for you. If you have any real estate questions, feel free to reach out to me. Would love to help you with anything you got going on, and we'll see you next time.